On August 14, 2020, the classical guitar community was in mourning due to the death of one of the most influential classical guitarists in music history. Julian Bream was an English classical guitarist and lutenist who was one of the most distinguished musicians of the 20th century, along with another great classical guitar maestro of the same time as Andrea Segovia. His legacy brought us a vast repertoire of musical pieces that will forever remain in the hearts of those of us who are into the world of classical guitar. This video is an homage to the memory of Julian Bream and is a way to pay respects to this legend of classical guitar. Julian Bream, please rest in peace. Hello Enigmas, welcome to another top 8 video series of classical guitar and all there is to know about this fabulous music genre, brought by your host, Delia. Today we are counting down our picks for the top 8 best classical guitar performances by the English virtuoso, the great Julian Bream. For this list, we have brought to you a compilation of those pieces performed by Julian Bream that left the music community astonished by his degree of proficiency in classical guitar. We have chosen the best of Julian Bream and studied each performance with the most objective way as possible in order to let our audience understand better his legacy, since he was also known as a lute performer aside from classical guitar. Before we proceed with our first entry, if you are interested in classical guitar and you wish to know more about music topics, start now by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Number 8. Fandanguillo by Joaquin Turina. As everybody knows, Joaquin Turina was one of the most important pianists of Spanish classical music. Also, many of his masterpieces were transcribed by the great Andrea Segovia in the 20th century. Fandanguillo is one of those pieces made known by Segovia to the classical guitar community. And given that around the same time, Julian Bream was rising as a prolific musician, he performed Turina's Fandanguillo in his vast repertoire. The interpretation of Fandanguillo by Bream is without a doubt one of the best out there, and for this reason, this one takes place number 8 on the list. Number 7. Recuerdos de la Alhambra by Francisco Tárrega. There are many pieces of Tárrega that were performed by Julian Bream. However, we consider this one to be his best tremolo and of course his performance of Tárrega. Recuerdos de la Alhambra is a masterpiece that refers to the Palace of Alhambra, which is surrounded by a fortress complex in the province of Granada in Spain. As of the poetic meaning that Tárrega put into the tremolo of this piece, it makes a representation of the water fountains inside of the Alhambra. It is the most famous example of the use of tremolo on guitar music, and given its importance, it is up to this date the most well-known tremolo masterpiece to have ever existed, thanks to Andrea Segovia, and also thanks to Julian Bream for bringing an outstanding performance. Number 6. Rondo in A minor by Dionisio Aguado. This time we bring a composer of the classical period and one of his most prolific works ever, the Spanish guitarist Dionisio Aguado. He is known to be a pioneer of new guitar notations, since at the time, tablature was still the notation of choice for guitarists in Spain. Also, Aguado is well known for his concert and pedagogical works as well as his method books. Now, regarding this rondo in A minor, this one is taken from Aguado's collection of 4 rondos brilliants opus 2. Julian Bream showcases the pure essence of Dionisio Aguado's music of Spain's classical period and brought to us this divine performance. Number 5. Prelude BWV 999 in D minor by Johann Sebastian Bach. Originally composed for piano in C minor, we had Andrea Segovia once again bringing transcriptions of classical music composers like Johann Sebastian Bach into classical guitar. Originally for lute in C minor, it adapts nicely when arranged for guitar in D minor, and so it became popularly known as a lute suite. That said, the prelude aspect of the work is certainly in a style common to lute works of the era. And thanks to the contributions of Andrea Segovia in guitar, the great Julian Bream performed this piece pretty well to let the audience know that this piece can be played at its original tempo or even a little faster to make it more complex. Number 4. Mallorca by Isaac Albéniz. Mallorca of the Opus 202 was formerly a piano masterpiece transcribed for classical guitar and has become an important work for the classical guitar repertoire. It has been played and recorded by guitarists such as Julian Bream and John Williams and many others. It is generally played in the key of D minor. Out of all the performances of this piece, Julian Bream's version is without a doubt the best of all. Mallorca refers to a style of lament, particular to the island of Mallorca, which is sung by one grieving the loss of a fiancé who has died. If you want to enjoy the best version of Mallorca, go check this version by Bream, and we can guarantee that you will agree with us that it is undeniably the best performance of the piece out there. Number 3. Lute Concerto in D major by Antonio Vivaldi. Just as we expected from our objective research, we had to include something different from classical guitar, but still related to stringed instruments. As many fans of Julian Bream know, he was not only a classical guitarist, but also a lute performer. In this case, we have Julian Bream performing with tons of expression this Lute Concerto in D major. Vivaldi wrote the piece in the 1730s, a period in which he wrote two of his other works featuring the lute, the trios for violin and lute in G minor and C major. Number 2. Violin Sonata No. 1 Fugue BWV 1001 by Johann Sebastian Bach. Just as its name suggests, this sonata was formerly composed by Bach for violin. However, there is a classical guitar transcription of this piece in which we see Julian Bream performing it. It's amazing how Bach's music continues to excite and amaze and move people centuries down the line. And who better to represent this masterpiece than the genius of Julian Bream? This Sonata No. 1 in G minor is part of the Sonatas and Partitas for solo violin, a set of 6 works composed by Johann Sebastian Bach. The set was completed by 1720, but was not published until 1802 by Nicolas Simbrock in Bonn. Even after publication, it was largely ignored until the celebrated violinist Joseph Joachim started performing these works. Today, Bach's sonatas and partitas are an essential part of the violin repertoire, and they are frequently performed and recorded. Quote by Julian Bream. Before we continue with our number 1 pick, be sure to subscribe to Delay Music and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Make sure you click on all notifications, and if you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. And now, before we unveil what we have for you on our number 1 pick, here are 4 honorable mentions. Number 1. Sevilla by Isaac Albéniz. Among all the performances on YouTube available of this Spanish masterpiece called Sevilla, we came to the conclusion that Julian Bream's interpretation is unquestionably the best of all. The virtuoso pianist and composer Isaac Albéniz was an instrumental figure in the development of Spanish nationalist school of composition. During his life, he composed dozens of pieces. One of them is this one called Sevilla. Albéniz premiered Sevilla himself in piano in a performance on 24 of January 1885 and dedicated it to the wife of Kurt Murphy. Since it has been transcribed for classical guitar, it has become one of the most important works of the classical guitar repertoire. It has been played and recorded by guitarists such as Julian Bream and John Williams and many others. It is generally played in the key of G major. Since Sevilla is one of the most important classical guitar pieces in Spanish music history, Julian Bream's performance is by far, based on our opinion, but also being objective enough to understand what the audience likes, the best performance ever by Julian Bream during his entire career. And to sum up, Julian Bream, thank you very much for your classical guitar legacy. We are going to miss you so much. Please rest in peace. So what do you think about this, Enigmas? Do you agree with our top 8? What Julian Bream performances do you think are the best ones? Please let us know through your comments what you think. Do not forget to share, like and comment on this video. Your host Delia will always be here on Delia Music to inform you about music and perform classical guitar masterpieces. We hope you Enigmas have enjoyed this video. Until we meet again.